Hi everybody, Tim Hughes here. I'm the co-founder of Digital Leadership Associates. I'm also the author of the book, Social Selling, Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers. With me today I have Naz. Hi Naz. Today we're going to talk about growth hacking. Naz, how are you today?
I'm okay. I'm not too. I'm quite well. Being busy, but I'm quite well. Living.
Good. So you've gone from like 0 to 3,000 followers on Twitter by using growth hacking techniques, and we're going to talk about that today. So before we get into that, though, where can people find you? What's the place where they can get hold of you on Twitter and LinkedIn?
You can find me on two areas, so LinkedIn and Twitter, under the Twitter handle Web Content Specialists. I'll just say a little bit about ourselves. So Web Content Specialists was formed this time last year.
Yes.
We've grown to 3,000 followers within 6 months. It's been a great success by connecting to tech influencers. And we started this off with nothing. And, you know, it's grown ever so well, and we've used social media and other elements, tech influencers as well, which we're going to discuss today in terms of how Web Content Specialists has grown. So please do follow me on Twitter. So
you're on Twitter as Web Content Specialists.
Yes.
You're also on LinkedIn as Web Content Specialist.
Yes.
So what's your definition of growth hacking? What's your view on what growth hacking is?
Well, growth hacking is an element which Sean Ellis used quite a bit, which was it's an experiment, and I'm just going to explain a little bit more. Growth hacking is a way of connecting to tech influencers, you know, using clever content marketing strategies to really growth hack your brand. Now, it's not just sort of putting out content and leaving it, and that would be that. It's more to do with sort of leveraging your brand in terms of using different sort of trends, shall we say, which is connecting to your influencers within your niche market. I mean, what I mean by your niche market is connecting to people who work around your area.
Yes.
And as well as sort of using special content to promote their stuff, as well as to promote your own stuff at the same time, which will kind of growth hack your brand by using their leverage in terms of building your own brand.
So you've been in contact with people like me, Ian Moyse. I mean, Ian is the Analytica #1 most influential person on cloud. And you've also been involved in a couple of other people as well that are highly influential. And that's really so in my book, for those who haven't read it, I talk about how you can take people's influence and move that around. So for example, if you retweet me, you're taking my influence and using it for yourself. And that's nothing wrong with that. It's just that you're able to do that from a social perspective. And so what you're doing in terms of growth hacking your brand and going to 3,000 followers is using people like ourselves as a way of accelerating that. Yes? Would you agree?
Yes, I agree with you. I think, you know, you've got to play a leverage.
Yeah.
I did connect to you. I think we connected through a friendly relation, and I didn't sell you anything. I just came across as a friendly person who wanted to just use your expertise in your area to kind of leverage and grow my own.
Yeah, and I think that most people, you know, from a connection and relationship perspective, you know, it's not like you would go to a first date and immediately propose marriage. Well, most people wouldn't. It would probably be deemed a little bit strange. I mean, what you did with me was that you built up a relationship with me. We happened to meet up in London, and we happened to do a video. But it was very, very straightforward in terms of your connection with me, and I think you've done that with all of the. I mean, you know, I know the people you've connected with, and if you came across as being odd or strange, they would have told you to go away. So, you know, fair play to you in the way that you've made that connection, and you've been able to use influence in a way to grow or growth hack your brand.
Yes, I mean, I've connected to you, sure, you know, Ian Moyse, Sam Hurley, Ed Leek, who was seen on BBC Two and has a massive marketing agency in Nottingham, as well as Mr. Kadudis, Dennis Kadudis. So all these tech influencers, which kind of kind of began from you, but I wouldn't. It was a great way to connect with you in terms of leverage that and build a pattern from there in terms of connecting to other tech influencers. So
yeah, so you're also very active on social as well, and you know I mean you tweet a lot without being. I mean, I know that you tweet a lot without being. Sometimes people tweet a lot and it kind of comes across as being spammy, but you're always active. I mean, what's your methodology behind that?
I think it's getting involved, getting active, and using social as a leverage to build content which is for tomorrow, which is kind of giving people a framework of what's going to happen tomorrow. People don't want to hear what happened yesterday or 6 months ago. They want to know what's going on in 2017. So if I take, for example, the 6 best marketing strategies in 2017, you're going to get a lot of hits because you're talking about what's going on in the future, or what sort of trends are coming along. So it's being very clever in terms of your content. Content is very key. It plays a key part in growth hacking as well, because the content that you put out is basically going to draw in your users, your target audience. So it's got to be specific, it's got to be to point, and use that as a leverage to sort of growth hack your brand.
And you use micro content in terms of putting out messages and stuff, and being very, very short and to the point. Is that a strategy that you follow?
Yeah, I mean, I've been using a lot of micro content such as quotes, famous quotes, which is quite important. I basically I basically make all the design myself. Design is very important. I use a lot of black sharp images and fonts to really growth hack the eye and sort of get into the mind of the audience. So there's different strategies of doing this. Like I say, people don't want yesterday's old news, or let's say old content. They want something quirky, clever, developed and so forth. That's where traditional marketing is kind of changing right now to say digital, online sort of growth hacking marketing methods.
And what do you do around innovation? I mean, it seems to me that you always seems to be searching for new ideas. I mean, do you think that innovation in marketing is something that you do? Is it something that everybody should do?
That's a good question. I think innovation is so important, because if you're not connecting to your influencers, which is quite important, I think that's innovation in itself, because you're going out there, you're building a relation with people. So you're innovating, you're creating ideas, and those ideas will one day help you so much, because they will share your content, your own influencers. And those are the guys that will really try to, spread the brand, create a message, create a buzz around your brand, because you're paying part to what they're doing. So innovation, with the material you're creating, the content you're creating has to be unique. It needs to be clever. It can't just be what other people are doing. You've got to think out of the box.
So do you test things? I mean, do you feel that it's not do you think, well, I'll try this, I'll see how it goes. If it fails, it fails.
Yeah, I think it's quite important that trial and error. Everyone needs to test. Everyone fails. I failed a few times, and I'll rightfully put my hand up and admit that. But I think, with any failure comes success. And I think if you can try to get your content right, it might not work the first time. People might not respond. People might not, people might consider you as spammy, like you say as well. So I think, you've got to get it right, who your target audience is, who are your influencers, and really try to connect from there. Yeah. And, try and test and trial that, and trial and test that, and see what works, and try and compare that between the both.
Because there's a famous, there's a quote on Spinal Tap, the film, where they say there's a thin line between being clever and stupid. And I think that there's on social that can often be the case. Yes. But I think people have got to be, people shouldn't be scared about trying things, and management, need to create an environment to say. So there's another saying. I think it comes from Cadbury. I read it in the book In Search for Excellence, which is called the quote is load, fire, aim. And I think in marketing today, you need to have an environment where you need to try things out and you go, okay, we tried that, it didn't work. We'll try something else. Oh, that works. We'll do a lot more of that. And certainly what I've seen is, I've been in business probably for 30 years, and every single assumption that we've ever had in business is kind of up for grabs. And just because you said, oh yeah, we tried that 6 years ago and it didn't work, it could work today. It's such a different environment. And I think people need to be, even big organizations need to be in a situation where they're innovating, or in a situation where we tried it and it failed. Let's move on and let's try something else. I mean, is that, do you agree with that? I mean, you're a small organization yourself. I mean, what do you think? How do you think that big organizations, should they be growth hacking? Should they be innovating?
Well, I think, me connecting through many tech influencers like yourself, Sam Hurley, Ed Leak, Ian Moyes, and so forth, and many more, especially that I'm going to connect with. The organizations need to always keep up with growth hacking. It should be the top two just before digital marketing in terms of really trying to grow their brand, because, there's 8 billion people in this world, and, there's so much more market space in terms of trying to grow your brand, where people may not even have come across it. So what I'm trying is that growth hacking plays a part in digital marketing. And I think, if you really want to really build a structure, it's very important. I'll repeat myself, that you add growth elements to your business, because, the market's always changing. We live in a volatile market today. And I think supply and demand is largely part to play with how you sort of growth hack your brand as well, and try to get to your consumer's mind.
And is there any other final advice you have for people around growth hacking, or any tips and tricks you want to share? Or
yeah, I mean, I'm a small organization. We're really small, and getting out there and growth hacking, from a smaller perspective, is the tips I like to give to startups are very much sort of build your content around who you want to get to, who you want to get across. Build it and be clever about it, because I think the traditional terms of marketing is changing quite a lot. It's becoming more innovative, and I think growth hacking, like what we're discussing today with yourself, which I'm so happy to speak to you about, is that it's very important for these organizations, especially small organizations, which I like to stress out, need to imply growth hacking to their model. They cannot just think, today I went to a meeting and they didn't even decide to growth hack their brand, and it's a wealth management company, and they had something like, I don't know, 300 followers. And I asked the question to the lady. I said, you're a wealth management company based in Green Park, and you haven't even thought about this. And she said, well, we've never even come across it. I think what the point is that people are missing the point, which is they're not applying this to their model, and they're just sort of writing the odd blog here and there. And,
you see, I can understand growth hacking as something for small organizations, because it's kind of like a David and Goliath thing, which is where small organization, it doesn't have an infinite amount of resources, it probably has little or no budget, and what social allows small organizations to do is to scale very quickly. The fact that you've gone from 0 to 3,000 followers in next to no time is proof of that. And there are other, as you say, there's a big brand here who's got a tenth of your following, and they're not really actively engaging, or they're not being they're not innovating around what they're doing around social. So I agree with you that but from a big so you see that growth hacking is good for big companies as well.
I think it's very important for bigger companies, big companies to play a part in that. They've got a big budget, but like I say, that part of the monetary budget that they have could go towards growth hacking,
Right.
which is really important, because I think, you know, it's an element where, you know, people always want to be innovative. We live in an innovative society, so it's very much sort of trying to just keep those organizations.
Naz, I think we've lost you.
Structure.
I think we've lost Naz.
No, I'm back.
Oh, you're back. Fantastic.
So yeah, I just want to cut it short. So basically, yeah, I think organizations need to grow their users, have a structure in place, and make sure that they're implementing their material properly in terms of what they want to grow and how they want to put their brand across.
Okay, fantastic. So we've lost your video, but we've still got your sound. So before that, we're just about it's a good place, I think, to finish. That's been really insightful. Thank you, Naz. It's been fantastic.
Yep.
Just to reconfirm, where can people get hold of you?
So you can find me on the Twitter handle Web Content Specialists.
Yes.
On LinkedIn and on Twitter. We're always putting out new content, always connecting to tech influencers. So if anyone else wants to, have an interview or speak to me, that would be amazing. But like I said, it's important to also remember that I did connect through yourself, who kind of helped me to leverage that sort of way forward. So it's very important to assure that people understand what we do, which is kind of connecting to tech influencers and getting new content out there, which can sort of help innovate our audience. So we like to share up-to-date content on what's going on in the tech field.
Fantastic. Thank you, Naz. Appreciate today. Have a good weekend, and I'm sure we'll be seeing each other online soon. Thanks, Naz.
Great.
Cheers. Bye.
Thanks.